All right, today we're diving deep into the official master plan for the Hainan Free Trade Port. This is a project so big, it's completely changing the game for an entire island province in the South China Sea. And when we say big, we mean it. This is a truly massive undertaking. We're talking about a plan to transform the whole island of Hainan, and that's an area about the size of Belgium, by the way, into a global hub for trade, investment, and talent. It's a huge long-term bet. So you're probably wondering, what are the actual rules? What's the timeline for all this? And really, why should you care? Well, in this explainer, we're going to break down the official government blueprint to figure it all out. Let's get into it. Okay, first things first, we have to understand the why. Why is China putting so much time and energy into this one specific island? Well, the answer really comes down to some incredibly high-level strategic goals. And you don't just have to take my word for it. This quote right from the official plan makes the ambition crystal clear. Hainan is being set up to be a new symbol, kind of like a giant welcome sign for China's economic openness, designed to get the whole world's attention. So the key takeaway here is that this isn't just about one island. The plan positions Hainan as China's big answer to some of the economic challenges out there in the world. Think of it as a laboratory for the next wave of market reforms. It's really about creating a whole new way of plugging into the global economy. So that's the why. Now let's get into the how. How are they actually going to pull this off? Well, to make it happen, the plan introduces some really unique rules. And it all boils down to two key ideas you've got to understand: the first line and the second line. Okay, the first line is pretty simple. Just think of it as Hainan's new international border. When goods come into Hainan from anywhere else in the world, they cross this line. The whole system is designed to make that as smooth and easy as possible. Now, the second line, this is the border between Hainan and the rest of mainland China. And this is where things are different. This is where customs controls and taxes kick in, basically turning the whole island into one giant, self-contained customs zone. This comparison really shows you the genius of the system. Let's say goods come from Europe into Hainan. They cross the first line, and they're largely tariff-free. Super simple. But if you then want to sell those goods in Beijing, you have to move them across the second line, and that's when they get treated like normal imports. But, and this is the real game changer, if you take those European parts, manufacture something in Hainan, and add over 30% to its value, you can then ship it to the mainland tariff-free. That's a massive incentive to set up shop right there on the island. You know, this whole first line, second line setup is all in service of what the plan calls these 5 core freedoms. The end goal is to make the movement of goods, money, people, and transportation as easy and painless as possible. It's all about creating a super open and dynamic place to do business. But okay, let's be honest. The part of this plan that's really making everyone's head turn, it's the tax policy. Hainan is being set up to have one of the most competitive tax environments you can find anywhere. And wow, the numbers really tell the story here. For companies in certain key industries, the corporate income tax is capped at just 15%. I mean, that's a huge drop from the standard 25% on the mainland. And get this, for high-end, qualified talent, personal income tax is also capped at 15%. That is an incredibly powerful magnet for attracting top companies and people. And it's not just for businesses. If you're just visiting, there's a huge perk for you too. The annual duty-free shopping limit has been jacked up to 100,000 RMB. That's over 14,000 US dollars. They are clearly going all in on making Hainan the destination for international tourism and shopping. So the core principles are pretty straightforward. Zero tariffs on a whole list of goods, super low tax rates, and a simpler system overall. But they're also being careful. The plan makes a big deal about having a strong rule of law, because they don't want Hainan to just become a shady tax haven. They want real businesses doing real work on the island. Obviously, you can't just flip a switch on a project this enormous. It's going to take time, and the plan lays out a very clear multi-decade roadmap for how this is all going to unfold. So here's how it's supposed to work. By 2025, that's the first big deadline, the basic framework is supposed to be in place. Then, fast forward to 2035, and the whole system should be mature, running like a well-oiled machine. And then, the ultimate goal, by the middle of the century, the vision is for Hainan to be a globally famous top-tier free trade port. But let's go back to that first date, 2025. That one is absolutely critical. That's the target for completing what they call the island-wide customs closure. Now, that's a bit of technical jargon, but it basically means getting that whole first line, second line system fully operational for the entire island. It's the foundation for everything else. Okay, so let's zoom back out. We've gone over the rules, the taxes, the timeline, but what does all of this mean for the rest of the world? Well, the impacts could be huge, especially when you look at the industries Hainan is targeting. And this isn't just about moving boxes off of ships. They're aiming way higher. Tourism, of course, that's a no-brainer, but look at this heavy focus on modern services like finance and shipping, and even futuristic stuff like deep-sea technology, biotech, and aerospace. This is about building a diverse, high-tech economy from the ground up. So what's the bottom line here? For global businesses, Hainan could be a brand new, low-tax front door into the massive Chinese market. For China itself, it's like a giant laboratory to test out its boldest economic ideas. And for the global economy, it means there's a powerful new player on the field, one that's going to be competing directly with established hubs like Singapore and Hong Kong. Look, the ambition here is off the charts, and the plan is already in motion. But turning a grand vision like this into a reality is going to be a long, complex journey. So the only real question left is, can they pull it off? Believe me, the whole world will be watching to find out.